What if the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the way you think? Every day, your thoughts decide your behavior, emotions, habits, and reactions. They define your beliefs, self image, and your possibilities. Yet most people go through life without ever questioning their thoughts. What if your mind is running a program that was written by someone else? Your parents, your fears, or your past failures? What if you could reprogram that? This book by Peter Hollins teaches how to gain conscious control over your thought process, shape your mindset, and turn your thinking into your greatest ally instead of your biggest enemy. This summary explains how. Most people don't realize they're thinking on autopilot. They repeat the same thoughts, react the same way to problems, and keep falling into patterns they don't like. The first thing Peter Hollins wants us to understand is that thinking is a skill, not just something that happens. Like any skill, it can be improved, practiced, and sharpened. And once you do that, you begin to think with purpose and clarity instead of being tossed around by emotions, stress, or random influences. He introduces the idea that your current reality is a result of the thoughts you've been feeding your mind. If you constantly think about failure, doubt, or limitation, you create behaviors and choices that align with those thoughts. Over time, those thoughts become your beliefs and shape your identity. That's why changing your thoughts is not just about feeling good, it's about changing your future. Hollins discusses a concept called automatic thoughts. These are the knee jerk responses you have to situations. They're fast, emotional, and often negative. For example, if someone criticizes you and your first thought is, I'm worthless, that's an automatic thought. These thoughts come from past experiences, emotional conditioning, and even childhood. If left unchecked, they run your life. That's why awareness is the first step. You can't change what you don't notice. Peter suggests that we begin tracking our thoughts during high stress moments to see which patterns come up. You might find that you always think in extremes, I'll never get this right, blame yourself for everything, or expect the worst. These patterns are not truths, they're just habits. Once you become aware of your mental patterns, you can begin the real work, replacing destructive thought loops with constructive ones. For this, Peter introduces thought shaping. Just like sculptors shape clay into a form, you can reshape your thoughts into something more useful. One of the simplest methods is to ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? That one question can stop a mental spiral in its tracks. Then you replace it with something more rational. Instead of thinking, I'm such a failure, you think, this didn't work out, but I can learn from it. It may sound simple, but this shift has long-term impact on your mental health, self-confidence, and actions. Hollins dives deeper into cognitive distortions. These are false ways of thinking that seem real but are not. Examples include black and white thinking, seeing things as all good or all bad, overgeneralization, assuming one failure means future failure, mind reading, assuming you know what others think, and catastrophizing, assuming the worst will happen. These distortions fuel anxiety, low confidence, and inaction. He teaches you to label these distortions when they occur, challenge them, and replace them with balanced thinking. Another major idea in the book is the concept of mental diets. We know physical health is affected by the food we eat, but mental health is equally influenced by the information diet we consume. This includes the content we watch, the people we listen to, and the thoughts we repeat in our head. If you spend your day consuming negativity, drama, or toxic conversations, it's like feeding your brain junk food. Your thoughts will naturally become anxious, angry, or sad. Peter recommends being mindful of the media you consume, reducing exposure to toxic people, and curating your inputs with intention. He also stresses the importance of inner language. The words you use in your head affect your mindset more than you think. Saying, I can't do this, is not a harmless sentence, it's a command to your brain. Your inner voice becomes your outer reality. Hollins encourages using constructive self talk, even when facing difficulty. You don't have to lie to yourself or use fake positivity. Instead, use realistic optimism. This is hard, but I'm learning. I failed, but I'm growing. I'm scared, but I'll try anyway. These affirmations are not about delusion, they're about training your brain to look for possibility instead of panic. Discipline is another key theme. Thinking straight isn't just about positivity. It's also about mental discipline. Hollins explains that focus, clarity, and decision making all require energy. This energy is drained when you're distracted, anxious, or reacting emotionally all the time. He gives tools to improve focus, such as single tasking, taking breaks, minimizing decision fatigue, and simplifying routines. A clear mind is not a busy mind. The fewer things you try to juggle, the more you can think deeply about what matters. He introduces a powerful tool called metacognition, thinking about your thinking. When you become an observer of your own thoughts, you create space between the stimulus, what happens, and your response, how you react. In that space lies your power. For example, if you feel anger rising after someone insults you, you can step back and observe. I feel insulted, but I don't have to react. That moment of pause changes everything. It turns a reactive life into a conscious one. He suggests journaling as a way to practice metacognition. Writing down your thoughts helps you spot patterns and question them. Peter also talks about the influence of identity on thinking. If you believe you're lazy, every time you face a challenge, you'll think, I can't do this. I'm not that kind of person. But if you change your identity to, I'm a disciplined person, your thinking shifts automatically. Identity shapes behavior, but behavior also shapes identity. You can begin by acting like the person you want to be. The thoughts will follow. For example, waking up early, even when you don't feel like it, helps you think of yourself as responsible. Over time, this belief becomes real. Visualization is another practice Hollins recommends. Athletes, performers, and entrepreneurs all use it. When you imagine yourself succeeding in vivid detail, your brain builds the neural pathways as if it were real. This prepares you for action. The key is to visualize both the process and the outcome. Don't just imagine yourself receiving an award. Imagine the work, effort, and mindset it takes to get there. That way, your thoughts prepare your behavior for real success. Another profound concept in the book is the idea of mental hygiene. Just like we brush our teeth and wash our bodies, we must clean our minds. This includes removing toxic thoughts, resolving emotional baggage, and clearing up misunderstandings with ourselves. Forgiveness, reflection, solitude, and intentional thinking are ways to maintain mental hygiene. Peter advises regular check ins with yourself. Ask, what thoughts am I feeding my brain? Are they aligned with the life I want to create? Do they support or sabotage me? He also tackles the idea of fear based thinking. Most of the limitations in people's lives come not from actual obstacles, but from fear driven thoughts. Fear says, what if I fail? What will they think? What if I'm not good enough? These are just thoughts, not facts. But when you believe them, they become chains. Hollins suggests confronting fear based thoughts with logic and action. Break big fears into small steps. Take one uncomfortable action every day. Over time, your brain learns that fear is not a signal to stop, but a sign you're growing. Peter Hollins doesn't just talk theory, he gives practical steps. For example, he suggests a technique called thought replacement. Every time you catch a negative or limiting thought, replace it with a positive counter thought. Do this repeatedly until the new thought becomes automatic. Another technique is what if flipping. When your brain asks, what if I fail? You flip it. What if I succeed? This retrains your brain to expect good instead of doom. He also emphasizes that changing your thoughts is not a one time event, it's a lifestyle. Just like physical fitness requires consistent training, mental clarity requires daily effort. This includes mindfulness, gratitude journaling, breathing exercises, and making space for quiet reflection. Even 10 minutes of intentional thought daily can shift your mindset over time. The book closes with one final truth. You are not your thoughts, you are the thinker behind them. This realization is freeing. It means you're not defined by your past, your mistakes, or your worst fears. You have the ability to observe, question, and reshape your thoughts. You are not a slave to your mind, you are its master. Conclusion. In You Become What You Think, Peter Hollins shows that the quality of your thoughts is the quality of your life. If you want to improve your habits, emotions, results, or relationships, you must start with your mind. The process begins with awareness, continues with intentional practice, and ends in transformation. You become calm when your thoughts are calm. You become strong when your thoughts are disciplined. You become confident when your thoughts support your growth. And you become what you think, so choose your thoughts wisely. Let me know if you'd like a printable PDF